Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for inspired conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, publisher of Aspire magazine, celebrating 15 years of inspiring, empowering, and supporting women in living their best lives. What? You're not a subscriber yet? You haven't claimed your free subscription? Gals, get over to subscribe to aspire.com. It's a free subscription, includes dozens of free gifts from sacred members of my community. So I look forward to seeing you on the other side, my friends. So today I am so excited because Joanne Calabrese is a skilled wellness, mindfulness, and recovery educator, and she's here with me today. She's a lifelong organic gardener and herbalist, experienced in meditation, ritual work, qigong, and tai chi. And her passion is sharing how these intersecting practices can lead to more connectedness and healing in the world. And she does that through workshops and coaching. Joanne co-creates an urban backyard sanctuary for humans and other critters in Denver, Colorado, where she lives with the dogs Luna and Millie. Welcome, welcome, Joanne.
Hi, Linda. It's good to be here.
Well, I am so excited to have you here. I love how you combine everything in your book. So let's talk about the book. What led you to writing it?
It was a pretty long journey, actually. I, again, have been a lifelong gardener and grew up in a gardening family. My grandparents were Italian immigrants. My grandfather had a huge garden. Some of my earliest memories are running through that garden with my siblings and cousins. And so I started gardening very early. And I also started my meditation practice in my early 20s. And it took a while, I think, before those two things sort of combined for me, but it just became evident over a while. I mean, the garden is a sacred space, and the more I practiced, they kind of blended together and wove together. I think one of the also key turning points was as I got into herbal medicine and started reading about the connection that early herbalists, was one part certainly science and exploring with plants, but there was an intuitive part as well, which again kind of brings you into this whole mindful focus of really tuning in to the plants. And they blended together. 2013, I started blogging about it, just my musings about gardens and mindfulness. And at one point I was like, oh, I could put this in a book because I think other people might share my passion, might be interested in this. And so we have the book now.
Well, I'm so glad that you do. And as you know, I shared it in Aspire Mag's top 10 inspiring books list because I love bringing the woman in my global community resources like this, Joanne, because so many of us, especially over the last couple of years, or last year, I'll say, we're so disconnected, right?
Yes.
We are so disconnected from ourselves, our bodies, our emotions. And there's a quote that I heard you say in the book, or read that you said, and it says that you say gardens are like a portal to a mindfulness practice. And I'm like, ooh, just hearing the word portal. So how did you discover it in your personal journey? Was it you started, as you shared, starting to pay attention to how you felt, and then it just went deeper and deeper?
Yes. And I think, again, sometimes when you look back, it's hard to know all of the transition points. But as I got into more movement meditation, my early meditation experience was a lot of sitting meditation. But as I got into more movement with Tai Chi and Qigong and understanding that we can carry that mindfulness, and we should actually carry that mindfulness into our bodies. It's a full body experience. Then that transition when I was in the garden, hands in the soil, smelling the plants, they are a portal if we allow that to happen. I mean, certainly people can approach gardening in a very, what would the word be? Kind of a regimented way. It depends what you're trying to accomplish. But I think if you take the time to really tune in and are experiencing what's going on in the garden, not just what we want to have happen in the garden. Certainly we have goals. We want our flowers to be beautiful and we want to have a harvest if we're doing vegetables. But stepping back a little and saying, wow, there are all of these living entities here, the plants, the microorganisms in the soil, and taking time to truly appreciate that. I think as that kind of shifted for me, that awareness just opened up. And I do feel like the garden can be that portal because it invites us in, again, with the fragrances, the sights, the smells, all of this just invites us to be more attentive.
Well, it just resonates with me because even though I'm not a gardener, it's a kind of a family joke that as I walk by, plants go, please don't purchase me. So my honey, thank goodness, is amazing at gardening. But when I'm outside, when I'm in nature, when I am playing in the ground, I can feel the difference. I'm fully there. I'm not in my head. It's almost like I feel so, my words would be safe and grounded.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's my experience. So then combining it with everything else that you do, because one of the things you write about in the book is about plant correspondences as focal points for mindfulness practice. So explain how that works.
Okay, so the second half of the book has 52 plant correspondences in it. Plants that have their energetic kind of signature or characteristic, and plants can have many, many energetic characteristics, but I tuned into the one that was most prevalent for me. So for each plant, you can work with them once, one for a whole week. There are 52. You can do it as a yearly activity. You could also just randomly go through the book and pick a plant that you want to work with and do it for a day or a month, whatever works for people. But the focal point is we are bombarded every day with so much stimuli, especially I think now with the internet and electronic devices. So if we take some time to really focus our attention in various ways, it can be really helpful. I love, of course, gardens. So this sort of marriage of the correspondence, a plant attribute that goes with a plant, that really helps me stay focused. I think of the plant, I think of this energetic quality of the plant, and then I find ways to bring it into mindful focus over the day or the week. And in the book, I have a kind of structure to do that. Of course, people can always go off in their own direction, but I think it's important first to really align with that plant and that energetic quality. And then throughout the day, finding ways to integrate the plant into our lives. For the ones that are edible, I suggest finding ways to include them in recipes during the day. That's a great way to integrate them into your life. And then at the end of the day, to take some time for reflection, even if it's a minute or two. How did this energetic quality enter my life today? How did the plant enter my life, if at all? And I'm a big journaler, so I do recommend that to people. It's a great way to reflect at the end of the day, but people could use other methods as well.
I'm a big journaler too, so I agree completely there. I think it's when we can really listen to our soul speak.
Yeah, things pop up when you put your pen to paper that if you're just talking or thinking about it, they don't always manifest.
No, I feel the same way. It's almost as if you're getting out of your own way the moment you pick up the pen.
Yes.
That's the best way I can describe it for myself too. And it's funny because when I journal with the pen, it's such a different experience than I know a lot of people do digital journaling. But when I do digital journaling, I notice I'm always auto-correcting myself. Oh, that doesn't sound good. Erase, erase. But when you're with a pen and paper, you just go with it.
That's been my same experience, Linda. I actually mentioned that in the book. I know people do online journaling or digital. That's not worked for me at all. I tried it, and it's a different thing with pen on paper. Yeah.
And also in the book, right? You share that you have some of your favorite garden plants that are related to mindfulness, ritual, healing. What are they? What are your favorites?
Oh gosh, it does vary sometimes from from week to week, depending on what I'm working on. But I'd have to say, for mindfulness, any of the fragrant plants, and the reason for that is they're a reminder. So if I'm in the garden and I brush up against lavender or uh, lemon balm, clary sage, any of the ones that when you just brush against the leaves, they just release this fragrance that's very strong. You can stop and just take in a breath, just a reminder of the here and now, a reminder to really appreciate the garden. So I think those are some of the most powerful ones for just everyday mindfulness. And then healing herbs. I have to say, one of my favorite healing herbs is stinging nettles, and I write about stinging nettles in the book. Its correspondence is prickly gifts. Anybody who has bumped into stinging nettles when they didn't realize it was there uh, is aware of the plant very quickly. It has formic acid in it and little tiny hairs on the leaves that it's basically one of the same chemicals that's in a bee sting. So it feels like a bee sting, not always pleasant, but the plant is a tremendous healing plant. It's good for the garden. It's good to put into compost. Uh, People with biodynamic gardening use it all the time, but it's great for humans. It's good for internal organs. It's high in minerals. So the concept with nettles is that it's a prickly gift. And when we think about it, we have a lot of gifts in our life. They're like that, where maybe we have a friend who is a little bit abrasive, but is somebody we can always depend on to tell us the truth and give us good feedback. So there's a gift to that. Or we can think of situations in our life that maybe were challenging to get through, but we learned a lot from them. And I think holding on to that concept, that energetic concept with nettles, can be really empowering, especially during challenging situations.
Now, I can only imagine what your garden is like, Joanne. I would love to be walking through your grounds. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we want to dive deeper into this topic. I'll be right back with Joanne Calabrese of mindfulnessgardengames.com. See you in a moment.
This is OTRFM, part of the IOM radio network.
Inspiration for a Woman's Soul. Aspire Magazine, inspiring and supporting women on the path of self-discovery. Claim your free digital subscription today, which includes access to thousands of dollars of personal development bonus gifts from Team Inspiration partners. Claim your Aspire Magazine subscription today at subscribetoaspire.com.
Hey America, we need to have a little talk. We've got more food than we know what to do with in this country, yet 17 million kids in America are struggling with hunger. Makes no sense. Luckily, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks has volunteers gathering excess food and getting it to hungry kids. They're kind of like food angels. Hey, become a food angel yourself by supporting Feeding America in your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Hi everyone, this is Shay Parker, the host of Best of the Best, which airs live right here on IOM Radio every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm super excited to bring you expert guest hosts, spiritual discussions, free psychic readings, and so much more. I can promise that you will not want to miss this one-of-a-kind, fun, yet touching, down-to-earth show. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on OTRFM. This is Shay Parker, and I can't wait to see you there.
This is OTRFM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm so excited that you have circled up with myself and my special guest, Joanne Calabrese, author of Growing Mindful. So what was one of the greatest surprises? Because you and I were talking off air, and I know the love and the passion that goes into writing a book. So what surprised you while writing this book?
I had a number of synchronicities pop up as I was writing the book, that some of them, I mean, I look for synchronicities, so they do come up frequently, but I had some big ones. The little ones were just that I would be in the morning, I would get up at 5 and start writing, and I'd be writing about a particular plant. And then just randomly during the day, or if I was watching a show, this plant would pop up. Somebody was chopping it up in their kitchen on a TV show, and it might just be even an unusual plant. So that would always make me laugh, just make me smile about how the universe kind of connects back with us if we're paying attention. I also had some, I feel like, big synchronicities happen. One was about fennel. I have grown fennel for years, and for people who aren't familiar with it, it has a licoricey taste, in the same family as anise and parsley. And the seed heads on fennel look like a fireworks display. So I've always thought about fennel as lighting things up, illumination. So that was the correspondence for fennel, and that's what I was writing about. But for most of the plants, I also did some extra reading. My experience has been based on what my parents told me, my own gardening experience, but I wanted to do some deeper reading. And as I started to do that, I found out that when Prometheus in the Greek myth brought fire to humans, he brought coals in a fennel stalk. And this just fascinated me because I've known this story about Prometheus probably since 5th or 6th grade, but I don't remember the fennel stalk. I don't know if it was in the book that I was reading at that point. What was fascinating to me was I had already identified that fennel had to do with illumination. And so now here was this story about fire being brought to humans in a fennel stalk. So again, light and energy, which was very cool. But the other part of the story I didn't really tune into when I was a kid is that in the myth, the reason the other gods were mad at Prometheus was not just that he had brought fire, but that fire acted as a kind of mental and psychic illumination for the humans. And it was the point where humans became more human-like, more creative, more inventive. And that, again, the synchronicity that fennel actually, in the myth, illuminated humankind, illuminated us and had us be more in touch with who we were. I just found that fascinating, and it was so confirming for me about the correspondence.
So I love that. I call it divine validation, right? It's like, soul giggles. It's like, oh my God, because you're aligned with truth.
Yes.
You know, and that's so, I don't know. I just always look at it as a sign from the divine that we're on the right path, that our intuition is right, and never to doubt it. So what you had picked up about fennel, you knew to be truth, but the divine just said, in case you're doubting yourself, let me remind you of this story.
Yes, and it just makes you smile. It's like,
it does. Yes, it does. I have fun. I'm always looking for signs and synchronicities. So one of the things that you talk about on your blog and in your book is mindfulness garden games. And I'm like, ooh, doesn't that sound fun? So let's talk about that. What does that mean to you?
So I use the word games to mean any activity that is fun, creative, draws us in, things that we want to keep doing. And that's kind of the first half of the book. So the second half of the book is the 52 plants with correspondences, very focused mindfulness practice. The beginning half of the book is a whole range of activities. Some of them are very simple, some take some planning to do, but they're ways to engage with the garden in a more intentional way. As we said earlier, that the garden is almost a portal to mindfulness. But when we step up and say, okay, how do I take this to the next level? How might I really, with deliberate and intentional practice, deepen this? And so the games include things like creating fragrance awareness games where you put different plants in small jars and then close your eyes, or if you're doing it with children, a number of the games are really easy to do with kiddos, which I love. I have my own adult children now and also grandchildren. We've done these. Some of them are tuning in with creating a focal point and doing a scavenger hunt, if you will. So I'm going to go out and look for only things that are pink. And I'm going to tune into those on my walk or in my garden, or I'm going to tune into things that are just emerging from the garden or from the ground. Where's the point where I didn't see them yesterday or I didn't see them an hour ago and things are just starting to manifest into form? And again, there are just a lot of different ways to approach this. There are also longer meditations in that first section of the book.
Which is nice too. And I something you said earlier where you said you used to sit and meditate. I've never been one of those that's able to do that, but I love guided meditation, movement meditation. Washing the dishes can be a meditation, right?
Yes.
So I love that you give a variety of ways that we can interact with nature and our garden, because we all process and receive information differently. And it sounds like with everything in the book that you're speaking to so many of us.
I hope so. And I hope there's enough of a range for people to pick and choose. And I'm very clear about that in the beginning, that people need to tune into their intuition and just let that guide them.
Yeah, I so believe that. I agree. And there's a statement on your blog that says the garden is also a metaphor for our individual lives and our lives in community. And just sitting, receiving that, dive a little deeper into what you mean about how it relates to our lives and community.
Yeah. So, well, when we think about the garden, there's so many things happening. It's much more complex once you really take the time to look at it. And so starting with even the formation of seeds, how does that happen? Where does that come from? And the metaphor there is that we have many seed thoughts, seed ideas. Which ones are we going to plant? Which ones are we going to nurture? Which ones are we going to bring into fruition? We know that plants make hundreds or thousands of seeds and they put them out there. The intent is, let's get all of these seeds out there, and some of them will take and some of them won't. And some of that does have to do with, have they landed in a good place? And so we translate that to our lives. We can, with intention, make sure that our seed thoughts, the goals, the things we're trying to bring into our life, that we've planted in a good place and that we're nurturing them, that we're giving them the attention that they need. Then there are the plants, the perennials that live from year to year. And I think about what they do in the winter with most of them hunker down, like the top leaves die back and all of the food nutrition goes into the roots or the corns, whatever they're storing the energy in underground. And they're biding their time. They're biding their time for the right time to come back. And of course, we can step back and say, well, of course, that's spring. But the plant doesn't think the way humans do. They are assessing when the temperature's right, when the amount of light is right, And I think that metaphor for us is we can be attentive about our lives in that way. We can hunker down when we need to. We can store up energy when we need to. And this all has to do with self-care, which is part of what I do as a wellness trainer, really being intentional about our own self-care. And then I think the last thing I would say is about community is gardens are communities of plants. I mean, in the last 10 years or so, we have discovered so much about um, the intricacies of what's going on in the soil, where different kinds of fungi are actually connecting plants and exchanging nutrients. And it's just fascinating that we're learning all of this. And above ground, you have companion plants that help each other keep insects away, feed other plants. We have the plants that put nitrogen in the soil. And so it's a healthy community. If it's a good garden, it's a healthy community. And I think what we can look at, the metaphor there is that healthy communities are diverse and they're made up of lots of different strengths and different people supporting each other. Somebody's going to excel at one thing and another person is going to excel at something else, and to recognize and support that in various ways.
I just love how you explain everything. It just pulls it all together and makes so much sense. For me, I'm a tree gal.
Yeah.
If my honey goes, you brought home another picture of a tree, right? So, like, I love paintings of trees. I love trees in shadow, in the sunset, and you got the orange sky behind. For me, that's my nature fulfillment. He is a lot like you. He loves being in the ground and digging. That's his. He says when he's out there, and it relates to everything you're saying, when he's out there, he's in heaven.
Yeah.
He loves we live right on the water. He loves creating landscapes and playing in the garden. In fact, we just built this house a year ago, so we're about to put in the stone walls and garden. So he's already mapping that out. And when he's out there, like, I can just see everything. He's fully in the moment. And we forget how to do that.
We do. We don't live in a culture that encourages it very much. And yeah, we have to claim that time for ourselves, for sure.
Well, Joanne, we're going to take another break. When we come back, I want to talk about how your gardening habits have changed over time because of this integration of the mindfulness practice. And we'll be back in a moment. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm with Joanne Calabrese of mindfulnessgardengames.com. We'll be right back.
This is OTRFM, part of the IOM radio network.
By tapping into the subconscious mind and learning to understand the when and why behind our limiting beliefs, we are able to release them. Rapid transformational therapist and Reiki master Colleen Elaine supports women in mastering their mindset, releasing their false beliefs, and claiming their inner light. She is passionate about educating women how past trauma and challenges can be alchemized into opportunities for growth and transformation. Merging her expert skills and intuitive abilities, Colleen guides and compassionately supports clients using the powerful, rapid transformational therapy processes to excavate the root cause of the issue holding them back. Visit ColleenElaine.com to learn more about Colleen's services, and be sure to visit her shop for the Blissful Escapes series of guided meditations.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul. every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Me, a cat, moving in with a new human. It took a little getting used to. She has these weird games she likes to play, like this giant feather. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. It's almost like she thinks I enjoy it. But seeing how much fun she gets out of it, well, I guess it makes it all worth it. Humans.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
This is OTR FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I am your host, Linda Joy. And today we're talking about gardening and nature and mindfulness with the author of Growing Mindful, Joann Calabrese. So, Joanne, how have your gardening habits changed over time because you've incorporated the mindfulness practice?
I think one way for sure is that more acceptance of what is, and really not just an acceptance, but an appreciation of what is. And by that, I mean, it doesn't mean that I can't change it. So, we all have weeds that come into the garden, or sometimes a plant gets a virus. It doesn't mean we're like, oh, that's what is now, so I have to, just accept it that way. But accepting it in the now, because it can be disappointing when we have put time and energy into a garden and then something goes wrong. Denver, I used to live in Pennsylvania, and Denver has a season of hail, early summer into midsummer. And boy, it can wipe out a garden really fast. So that was my early experiences when I first moved here, is that one morning the garden can look lovely, and by the afternoon parts of it can be decimated. So breathing into that and really developing some acceptance of I can't control everything. There are many things I can control. I put hailcloth up over my garden now, so I have learned how to do that. But I think just being in the moment has really helped me be philosophic about things that don't go as I anticipated. Once again, doesn't mean I can't work to change it, but really relaxing into that moment and saying, okay, can I learn something from this? What happened here? And knowing that nature has its own timing, plants have their own timing. There might just be things that I wasn't aware of, or just random things that happen, again, like hail or some sort of insect invasion. I think if I step back and just appreciate the garden, I notice how resilient the plants and animals are. So even when things like hail have happened, within a week or two, plants start to regenerate. They start to pick up from that. And that's been truly just amazing to watch that unfold. Plants are resilient. So I think that relaxation into sometimes things aren't always going to go the way I planned, and that's okay. We move forward from that. That's one thing. I think I've also really tuned much more into individual plants, again, with that energetic, like sensing the energy from plants and recognizing that living entity that each of them is, rather than, oh, here's the bed of tomatoes, or here's the bed of fennel or flax. It's that each of them is an individual, just like humans are. And I think I take much more time to do that and recognize that now. And really the intricacies of plants. I had a botany class when I was in college, and in some ways, at least the way that it was taught when I took it, it felt very disconnected from what I did in the garden. It was mostly textbook and slide presentations and memorizing parts of a plant, which was not what my experience with gardening was. And now I have gone back to read much more about botany and just really appreciating what is happening on this cellular level. It's fascinating, and it's miraculous, and tuning into that. So it's sort of a different approach to botany I feel like I've developed over time. Yeah,
Well,
I think
it sounds like this is your life passion. Like as I'm listening to you, I'm like, this woman, that she's found her path. This is like the essence of who you are. I think that's so beautiful.
I am very passionate about it. And I will tell you, Linda, in writing the book, I thought even if nobody cares about what I'm saying in the book, and I know people have given me feedback that they do, I felt like this is on record so that my kids, my grandkids, they know who I am. I know they know who I am on one level, but they have this written record because I am totally passionate about my garden and my plants.
Yeah, but this is information, Joanne, that needs to be out there, right? So for people like me, like I don't know all the layers of gardening. I don't know about any of the plants. My honey can walk through the woods. We live in the middle of the woods on a spring-fed pond. He's been on this water for 60 years, and we've built homes here. And he'll walk with our granddaughter who's 9, and from a young age, he'd go, I hope I get this right, because see, I'm going to mess up the plants. He's like, hey, baby, this is sassafras. And she, from 3 years old, she goes, there's the sassafras, Papa. And she looks, but she's, you know how you roll it up in your hands?
Uh-huh.
And she loves that scent.
Yes.
She still does it at 9 years old. She'll go, another sassafras tree. He is so tuned into nature. You know what I mean? He loves learning about plants. When he's designing a garden for our yard, especially now that we just built this house, he spends so much time. I'm like, babe, can't you just pick one? That one looks pretty. He goes, but babe, that's not the sun, and that's not what it really needs. And like he's having a relationship with this plant that we're at the, and I'm like, okay.
Yes, absolutely.
That's the difference, right? He's like, no, this baby doesn't want to go there. This baby wants to do this. And I want to make sure if I'm going to get this baby that it has the light that she needs. I'm like, it's a she. He said, yes. So I get you, you know what I mean? Because I try to have these conversations with him, and we've been together 26 years. He can speak to plants and nature, always has. And it's because of my relationship with him, I've had a deeper appreciation for nature, and just like, I love being out in the woods. I love being with my trees.
Yeah. Yeah. And Linda, I have to tell you, that makes me so happy about your grandchild. My grandkids all can, if you're walking, they know plants, they can tell you about them. I don't know if they'll grow up to actually be gardeners, but it just makes me really happy that they know that stuff. Oh
yeah, he does it with her. She can name all the different trees that we have in our area. And I still don't know them, and I'm 59 years old. I'm like, baby, how do you know that's a beech? Well, you look at the bark and the leaf size, and I'm like, what? That's great. That's who she is. Like, she loves going in the woods and building fairy homes because she wants to make sure all the fairies are taken care of, because they're taking care of nature, she says. So she has to take care of them. So, we teach her all about magic and nature and all that. I just do it in a different way than he does. I'm the one enhancing her creativity using nature, but he's educating her on nature and the aspects of it. But you know what, Joanne, just like the importance of you writing this book, the info that you're sharing is going to be there forever. So now the children the adults, and then the children who later pick up your book, they're going to have that information. So I'm so glad that you followed your passion to read it. I know it's touching lives. I was drawn to it. And that's why I wanted to highlight you here and share the book inside the Aspire Mag Top 10 list, because this is the information that we need more than ever now. We are disconnected from ourselves, from the earth, from, I don't know, just really from the essence of our truth. Yeah. And just listen to you speak. It's like, it's so grounding. How can you not hear your own voice if you're outside in nature and with your hands in the garden? Yeah, that's how I feel, for sure. Oh, I can tell how much you love it. So you were also a coach and a teacher. So what are some of the ways that you incorporate this work into programs and events that can support people on a deeper level? Well, I've done mindfulness workshops and have brought actually plants from the garden to the workshops.
so you have a whole range of people that'll come to a mindfulness workshop, not always, focused on gardening, but having them work with the plants. We've often ended workshops by creating a group mandala, which is really fun, and having people choose plants off of a table and then put them together into a pattern. I give a lot of direction before they start. We do it silently so they can focus on the smell of the plant, the touch of the plant, what it looks like, the color combinations, and then we can't move anybody else's plant if somebody else in the group puts something down. So we have to respect that space, which is also that sort of acceptance piece of mindfulness, accepting what is. And it's kind of transformative. I mean, the activity takes maybe 10 minutes, but it's just a beautiful, beautiful way to incorporate, even for people who aren't gardeners and don't really expect this as part of a mindfulness workshop, to bring the garden in and to help people start to think about like tuning into nature and really all of our senses around nature, and then the group experience. So that's one way. I think some of the other things, again, in just the general mindfulness workshops, are having people think about when they're walking. Again, I can't assume that everybody in the workshop is a gardener. And so as you are walking, tuning into the plants that you're passing, especially the trees, because they are big entities, and holding that consciousness in your awareness that this is a living being, that we very often in our culture, they just fade into the background for most people. They're a backdrop for something else that's going on. So what if we can take a walk and each tree that we pass, consciously recognize it? You could say it out loud. You can say it silently to the tree that I recognize you as another being on this planet, and I'm grateful that you're here. And just incorporating that as a basic kind of walking mindfulness practice.
That's me. I love my, I look at my walks as mindfulness. We go out at sunrise every day, and we walk around the pond and watch the sun come up. And weather permitting, we live in New England, so we missed 2 weeks when we had the bitter cold, but we're back at it again. And I'm going to tell you, sometimes we go without even having a conversation. We both look at that as, that's our time. Yeah. That's we're just listening. We're looking for the deer or other animals. It is so peaceful. So I love that you incorporate that. Something that you said about that beautiful ritual you did with the mandala. So if I understand correctly, everyone's adding to it. And when it's finished, it's like a community mandala.
Yes.
That's beautiful. I love that. And you know what I love? I think that's something we could even do with kids.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I've done it with kids. Yeah.
We're going to take our last break. And when we come back, let's talk about some ideas for all the moms that are here that say, hey, I don't want to lose this generation to technology. What can I do to get them to enjoy nature and plants and gardening more? Let's talk about that when we come back, Joanne.
Okay.
And I'll be back in a moment with Joanne Calabrese of mindfulnessgardengames.com. Be sure to check out her new book and everything else she's up to in the world. We'll be right back.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
It's time to amplify your intuitive superpowers and allow your soul to lead the way. When you hear, trust, and follow your inner wisdom, you'll discover your soul's path, a path that leads to the joyful, authentic, and abundant life you desire and deserve. Master intuitive teacher, coach, and healer Carolyn Mcgee is known as the Angel, Animal, and Intuition Oracle. She has taught thousands of professional, corporate, and entrepreneurial women to trust themselves and their divine intuition so they can show up in their full power in business and in life. With a background of over 20 years in high tech, Carolyn knows firsthand the importance of living from a blend of her masculine and feminine energies. If you're ready to embrace your intuitive superpowers, visit CarolynMcgee.com to learn about Carolyn's supportive programs and offerings.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern, as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
This is OTR FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
You're listening to Inspired Conversations. Welcome back. I'm so excited that you're circling up with me this week and my special guest. So Joanne, now more than ever, I'm so grateful that my daughter doesn't believe in a lot of technology. So they do crafts. My granddaughter knows how to bake everything you can think of. She's learning fondant now. They are always creating and being outside. I would love for some moms who are struggling to get the kids outside, right? Because so many are connected to technology, especially now with school being on Zoom. Are there any tips or games that you can recommend for our listeners?
There are all kinds of things. There are quite a few in the first section of the book, and they all involve keeping it fun. So when you're trying to engage kids in the garden, in the green world, in mindfulness practice, really be attentive to their attention span. That's going to vary with age, to their interests. I mean, listen to them so that we're not just lecturing to them, listen to what their interests are, but be creative in how you engage with them. So some of the things that I include in the book, and some of the moms might know, I mean, I'm a big fan of different kinds of craft materials. And so to take those out into the garden and try to replicate the plants. So is it a drawing? Are you finger painting? Whatever you're seeing. And for very young kids, it's even just capturing the colors that you're seeing. So you're not trying to make a drawing that looks like whatever the plant is. That can be frustrating for kids as they're trying to draw, but you're just capturing colors. And so finger painting can be a great fun thing to do outside. Let's put the colors we're seeing in the garden on this paper, make a design out of it. So you're teaching attention. They're looking at the garden, but then they're bringing it back to a really fun activity.
Oh, that's fun. It reminds me of something I still do with my granddaughter, but more so when she was young, because of the reason you said too, is we'd go get all kinds of nature things. She'd pick every shape leaf that she could find, pine needles, all different things, little sticks. And then remember the rubbing? You do the rubbing?
Yes, I was going to mention that one too. Yeah.
Honestly, I got to tell you something. I don't know if I did it for her because I love it. I love doing that. And then as she got older, she'd rearrange all of those things to make little people so that when she rubbed it, they look like little nature people.
Yes.
That was fun.
That's a great one. And you can do that when you're doing the rubbings. You can have fun with different colors paper. So if you are using white paper on the rubbing, you can do different color crayons, but you can also get black paper and use a white crayon and play around with just making different designs that way. And it really helps the kids tune into the veins on the leaves and the shapes of the different plants. That's a very cool one.
Yeah, she notices those kind of things too. She'll dissect a leaf to say, why is this one so much different than this one? So that was you just reminded me of some great memories. One of the things she's really getting into right now is flower arranging. She has been doing that with the little glass ball jars.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
yeah, and she brings it over and she goes, I made this one just for you, Alma. And do you see how the purple, and she's naming all the flowers that are in it and these little leaves that she found in nature. They're small little arrangements, but I'm like, she has an eye. But what I love is my daughter's teaching her about each thing that's in there.
Yeah, that's a very cool way to approach it as well. And another thing I want to mention too, Linda, is just again that fun part. Kids love to do treasure hunts. So start with something. Again, we're going to look for things that are just coming out of the ground, and it's even more fun if you have magnifying glasses for them, so that they can go through the garden and look for that. Or we're going to look for a certain shape of leaf. We're going to look for flower buds that are starting. That's going to get them excited about finding things. It's fun to play with the magnifying glass, learning a little bit about botany, like where do the buds emerge from, or where do the leaves emerge from, whatever it is that you're tuning into and looking for. You can turn that into a game, and kids love that.
Oh yeah, she would definitely love that. And one of the other things too, I believe, is we have to educate our children. They're the nurturers of the next generation.
Yes.
So like we're blessed that we live in we're not in a city. It's a suburb. It's small. I mean, we don't have cabs or taxis or road service or anything like that. But I'm going to tell you, for a child to grow up here, we're right on the water. She has a spring-fed pond, and she is so connected to nature, and so is our 21-year-old grandson. Because I think when you're born in that kind of atmosphere, compared to the city like I was raised in, there is a sense of connection.
Yeah, it sounds enchanting.
Oh, it is. Everyone that comes here, even the oil man comes to deliver oil, and he's like, do I have to leave? Okay. Yeah, it's like, can I bring my fishing pole? Yeah, we're about half mile into the woods, and it's our sacred space. So, but I think that children that grow up with that, they innately have the connection. And those who aren't, we have to nurture it even more, because they never had the opportunity.
Right.
To be in nature. And now add technology into the story. We're losing a whole generations of kids who don't go outside. Like I used to go outside when I was young, and we had to be on. Your butt better be in the house when the street lights come on.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, and other than that, you would come in filthy dirty and then have the tub ready for you. We were out in nature. That's not the same anymore.
Yeah.
And that's heartbreaking. So that, my friend, is why I wanted to say I am so glad that you wrote your book, Growing Mindful, and that you're sharing it with the world. It's an important message. I'm happy to have you here to share it with my audience.
Thank you so much, Linda.
You're welcome. And in the last moments that we have, is there anything you would like to share, more than the wisdom that you already have, that you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, I think the point that you made is that you don't have to be a gardener. I love promoting gardening, but you don't have to be a gardener to get out there and feel this connection, this deep connection to the green world and the world of plants.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because for a lot, for many years I used to go, I can't garden. I'm not I don't have the same knowledge that Dana has, or the passion to actually learn it, but I love what I feel in nature. I love suggesting that everyone's in nature, because I want them to feel what I feel when I'm out there. So though, like you said, I'm not a gardener, oh my God, I'm so connected to nature in the cycles of the moon, and follow all of that. It nurtures me.
Yes, that's the important thing. And so taking the time to tune into that. And everybody can do it. It's a matter of intention and making the time to do it. Yeah.
Well, I want to say thank you again, Joanne, for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. And I want to invite all our listeners to visit mindfulnessgardengames.com, where you'll learn all about Joanne's book and everything else that she has going on in the world. And she has a great blog too, so be sure to check it out. Until next time, my friends, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness. Blessings.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.